Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Scrapple Boys, presented by Dever Sports, and we are broadcasting live from the Last Out Media Studios. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this Saturday morning. This Saturday morning, everybody, is going to be a pretty fun Saturday. It's 9/11, though, and we cannot not forget to remember that 20 years ago today, we had a horrific historical tragedy, and it was a pretty crazy moment in all of our lives, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to touch on that to start the show, and we'll bring to you a pretty darn good sports show. We have Aaron Freeman coming on from Locked On Falcons, and we also will have dive into the NFL. We got the Eagles playing tomorrow. We're ready for some football, so
football's back.
We're going to jump right into it here because we want to just get right into the show, and we got a lot of stuff to get to, so we got to clear the table and get going. Welcome, Austin.
What's up, man?
I got Austin Lieb here.
Whoa.
Austin Hamill. Austin Hamill, sorry.
Chuck fumbled.
Yeah, I fumbled.
Ronald Jones.
My man Austin Hamill's here. We got John Lieb, and we got behind the glass. I got my man Taylor behind the glass. Taylor, this is his first time producing for me. Taylor, nice to work with you.
Happy to be here, guys.
All righty. All right, so Austin Hamills. How do you? Where were you on 9/11?
Oh man, I was at Distant Elementary School in 7th grade, going into my English class when the first two towers were struck. I walked into my English class as the second tower was being struck.
Wow.
I literally walked in and I was like, what in the hell is going on right now? And then I'm everyone in the room is just in stunned silence, just watching this happen. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, you couldn't believe it. It was really crazy.
It was, personally, the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
And I actually, when I first started watching sports was around the 96 Olympics in, where was that? Oklahoma? Where the that bombing happened.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I've seen some crazy stuff in my life, but that's probably the wildest for sure.
Yes. Yep. I don't think New York will ever be the same. John, where were you in 2001?
Well, I clearly remember that day and waking up that morning and seeing everything on TV, and then having while it was all going on, driving to work over in South Jersey. I was working at a cell phone store at the time, and I just remember that morning. It was just, I think I literally felt like I was the only vehicle on the road, and it was like the eeriest feeling I can remember. And then I remember we were at work and just listening all day, and then they let us out. They let us go home early, and even driving back that day, again, there was nobody on the road, and it was just it was like a ghost. You felt like the world was. You felt like everything was ended.
Like everything.
Yeah, everything it was just like
life just hit the pause button. Yeah.
It was so creepy and eerie, and it was one of the worst day in our lifetime. Yeah,
it was definitely scary. Taylor, can you remember where you were?
I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, and I thought I was.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
man.
So
Man, oh man.
You probably don't remember too much.
No.
I just remember just being confused, being at that age.
Yeah, where your parents were going crazy,
I actually lived across the street from my elementary school, and my mom worked at another school nearby, so I just stayed in school for the rest of the day. But
you probably had no idea, what
was really going on.
No, I didn't really have any comprehension until more of the news came out, and it's oh, okay.
Yeah.
I still, real quick, just off the subject, I still remember watching when the Challenger exploded.
Oh yeah.
I was in second grade. I still remember that.
Jeez,
right. Well,
me and Taylor weren't even thought of yet.
I know, right. I was working at a bank back then down in Center City, Philadelphia, and I off of Market Street and right across from the 94 WIP studio at that time. I don't know if they're still there or not, but right by 4th and Market or 5th and Market. And I remember them letting us go and them telling us don't use the elevators and all. Nobody listened. Everybody just bum rushed the elevators and the stairs and got out of there. And I can remember my mom calling me and different family members calling me, asking me if everything's all right. They were worried because of me and being in downtown and being a financial institution and that we could possibly be a target. And that kind of is a little bit scary, you know, when you're thinking that you could actually possibly be a target. But it was crazy. And just then watching later on the news and seeing how those planes had crashed into the buildings, and I'm thinking to myself, I couldn't imagine what that would have been like. Imagine you're just sitting there at work and then
all of a sudden,
like this chaos. And
those people, I remember when the first plane hit, it was crazy because you thought it was just like a freak accident.
Yeah.
And then when you heard the second, you're like, nah, there's something else going on.
Yeah, and you heard a terrorist attack. Really, I can't believe it.
Yeah, and for those buildings to come down that easily like they did, it was crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure the Gobbler will touch on it tomorrow, but he was probably eating a sandwich back then.
Yeah, he's probably.
He was probably eating or something.
Yeah.
I just remember a good friend of mine was actually going to go to the mall right there by World Trade to go and pick up some vinyls and stuff, and he actually missed his train and was like,
"Oh my God,
I'm not gonna go."
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
missing that train literally saved his life.
So he would have been literally there when it happened.
He would have been right in the epicenter of it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does he still have does he still think about that?
He just every once in a while will just like if we start talking about like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like bringing up the 9/11
like somebody
stuff. He'll just literally just be like, "Yeah, dude, if I wouldn't have missed that train, I'd be a dead man."
Somebody was watching him over
definitely
that day.
For real.
Yeah.
So today, guys, we'll jump into the sports conversation. We're going to tackle the NFL. I will see if we can touch a little bit. To me, like the touch in the Phillies is a little bit crazy because the Phillies stink.
Listen,
and right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like even saying the name right now is just taboo.
Yeah,
I'm officially tapped out for the season for the Phillies.
We will dive into that later, but we got an NFL slate of games on our hands. We had one Thursday. We'll dive into that. We got one important one right here in town, locally. Well, it'll be on the road, but the Eagles will be playing the Atlanta Falcons. So, we'll get into our thoughts on the game, and we have a guest coming on in a couple minutes. Aaron Freeman, he's from Locked On Falcons podcast. He's the host, and we look forward to going behind enemy lines with Aaron Freeman. Is he on? Aaron? Hey, how are you doing? This is Chuck, or better known on these parts as Cheesesteak Chucky, the host of the Scrapple Boys show. And Aaron, we appreciate you joining us today. We're going to go on behind enemy lines, and what can you tell us about this upcoming game from the Falcons side of things? Well, okay. Now, a question that I have for you, Aaron, is, so speaking of, you mentioned Kyle Pitts. Now, Kyle Pitts, many here in Philadelphia, including myself, had wanted them to draft. And of course, you know, we ended up with Devontae Smith, which we're all still happy. But is Kyle Pitts the real deal so far? Has it, or seemed like it? Because you guys haven't probably seen much of your players, much as we haven't ours. So what can you tell us about Kyle Pitts as far as his life so far? I mean, how he's been in the NFL, like training camp wise, preseason wise. What does he look like?
Right.
When they had this level of a tight end, and Tony Gonzalez at that point in his career was not sort of the dynamic weapon that Kyle Pitts has the potential to be. Gonzalez was more of a chain mover at that point in his career, a very good one. But Kyle Pitts brings a lot more potential to the table to be.
The expectation is that will start on Sunday.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and that's what I'm worried about. As far as Kyle Pitts is positioned as tight end, don't you guys have had Hayden Hurst, and so are they going to go like a 12 personnel, like 2 tight end kind of thing, or how do you think Hayden Hurst fits into that?
Yeah, I think the Falcons, for Eagles fans, it's going to be familiar because the Eagles have deployed 12 personnel pretty extensively, probably more than any other team in the NFL these last couple of years. With guys like Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, I think the Falcons, that's going to be their plan. That's kind of, when you look at their offense, they have some question marks at the wide receiver position. Now that they don't have Julio Jones opposite Calvin Ridley, they have one really good wide receiver in Calvin Ridley, but you question a little bit what the quality of their number 2, number 3, number 4 wide receivers are going to be. So I think the Falcons, similar to what we've seen out of the Eagles these last couple of years, 50% or more of their offense could feature that 12 personnel, those 2 tight end sets. As far as Hayden Hurst goes, he was solid last year in his debut season in Atlanta. He got better as the year wore on, starting to really build that rapport with Matt Ryan towards the end of the season. The thing with Hayden Hurst was he came from that Baltimore system, that run-first system there. And, one of the reasons why he fell out of favor in Baltimore and ultimately got traded to the Falcons last year is because he wasn't necessarily as good a blocker in that sort of system as some of their other tight ends. And got to Atlanta, has slimmed down this offseason, lost, I think the reports were that he lost maybe like 15 pounds or something like that. And, the expectation, I think, for him is that he's going to be more of that receiving threat, opposite Kyle Pitts as well. But he's going to probably be a little bit more of that chain-moving type that I referred to earlier with Tony Gonzalez. Well, Pitts is more of that dynamic threat. But the expectation is Hayden Hurst is going to have another solid to good year, a better year than he had a year ago because players like Pitts and Ridley are going to be drawing a lot of attention, and he'll get some one-on-ones that he should be able to better exploit this year.
Okay, Aaron. I got one of my co-hosts here, John Lieb. He wants to ask you a question as well. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing? This is John from the Scrapple Boys. I just wanted to ask you, how do you see Matt Ryan holding up against this pretty aggressive, feisty Eagles defense we got?
Yeah, that's the main concern with the Falcons offense. It's the same sort of scenario that we've seen time and time again with the Falcons versus Eagles matchup. It's the Falcons have these dynamic, high-level skill position players, and the Eagles typically decide, we're going to win this game in the trenches with our defensive line going up against what has far too often, if you're Falcon fans, maybe other teams feel differently, but not been great offensive lines here in Atlanta. I think that's going to be the situation again. This year with some question marks on the interior. You got some first-year starters in center Matt Hennessy, left guard Jalen Mayfield going up against, some pretty good D tackles in Philadelphia. We know Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave as well as others on that D line. It can certainly affect the quarterback. So I think with Matt Ryan, you're really wondering whether or not this pass protection is going to be able to hold up for him, particularly in those third down situations. Where you can't really hide if you have suspect offensive line where you need to get into a straight drop back passing game and sling the ball. Obviously, we know the Falcons have the weapons that Matt Ryan can find and locate if he's given enough time. And I think with Matt Ryan at this point in his career, there's high expectations for what he's going to bring to the table this season under Arthur Smith's play calling, assuming the offensive line can, facilitate that. You're expected for Arthur Smith to port over some of the things that he did in Tennessee, which is a high usage of play action passing, which Matt Ryan has shown in previous years that he can operate at a very efficient level. And so I think the expectations for a lot of folks, even though Matt Ryan's 36, he's getting up there in age. There are been questions all off season long about sort of his longevity. I think in my thought process is that I think Matt Ryan is still a very good quarterback at this point in time in his career. I think there's fair to have questions about where Matt Ryan's going to be 2-3 years from now when he's, approaching 40. But I think at this point in time, we still expect Matt Ryan to be, one of the 10 or so best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think he's, if the offensive line can give him the time to do so, I think he's more than capable of proving that.
Okay, that's what I think is a concern. I think for me is that Matt Ryan would have the ability to get the ball out quick, and so that could neutralize the Eagles' pass rush. However, I got my other co-host here, Austin Hamill. He would also like to ask you a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
All right.
So, I just wanted to touch on the secondary a little bit. With the loss of Keanu Neal, how does the secondary sort of, I guess you could say, rally around each other, and how's like their progression been looking so far throughout training camp and the preseason?
Yeah, I think the secondary is going to be one of those questions I indicated earlier that we don't quite know what they're going to be this upcoming season. You mentioned losing Keanu Neal. They also lost two other safeties in Devontae Casey, who joins Neal in Dallas, Ricardo Allen with the Cincinnati. And they replaced those guys with some veteran safeties in Deron Harmon, who comes from New England and Detroit, Eric Harris, who with the Raiders last year, and they drafted Richie Grant in the second round of this past year's draft out of Central Florida. And, those guys are kind of bringing different skill sets. Neal was, this sort of enforcer over the middle of the defense, was sort of their go-to tight end eraser, and has been effective in that role in previous years when he was healthy. And none of these new guys really sort of bring that same sort of dynamic to the defense in terms of, physical hitting, maybe the closest one being Harris, being a little bit more of that bigger, run defender. But I think with this Eagles matchup, you don't necessarily have one of these safeties that you're looking at as saying, okay, this guy's going to go up against Dallas Goedert, this guy's going to go up against Zach Ertz, and sort of neutralize those guys. And I think that's going to be a big issue for the Falcons defense this Sunday is sort of how do they slow those two guys down, similar to how the Eagles are looking at the Falcons tight ends and trying to figure out how they're going to slow those guys down. And I think the Falcons are going to, try their best to play a lot of zone and maybe mix up some coverages and try to disguise things and basically rely less on their coverage ability to sort of solve those problems and try to let scheme and pressure try to neutralize Jalen Hurts, try to speed up his process, force him into some mistakes rather. And so, I think the strength of the secondary is their outside cornerback in A.J. Terrell. He had a very solid rookie season. Looks like he's going to turn into a really good pro for them. But I think it's fair to have question marks about the rest of the secondary. You have a bunch of sort of journeyman players. You have some sort of veteran stopgap players. And this year is kind of going to be a feeling out year to see sort of which of those guys emerges as a viable starter for them. You have their starting outside corner, Fabian Moreau from Washington on a one-year deal. You have Isaiah Oliver, their former second-round pick, entering the final year of his contract. Harmon and Harris are on one-year deals. Grant obviously is a future starter for them at that safety position, but the expectation, at least at this point in the season, is he's going to be more of a reserve special teams guy. So, the secondary has question marks, and I think it's fair to look at them and say, and be a little skeptical of them. But I think, right now we know Terrell's probably good. I don't know what we know about the rest of this group.
Okay, Aaron, I got one of my guests, one of my viewers, asking a question. He says, "Do you think Kyle Pitts will help Matt Ryan open the field like Tony Gonzalez did for him? And also, how well do you think Kyle Pitts will do this coming season?"
I expect Kyle Pitts to play really well this season. I put out some statistical projections the other day, and I had him
catching around 75 passes, 75, 80 passes for over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. I'm sorry. And so I expect Kyle Pitts to have a relatively historic rookie season in terms of the tight end position, outshining a player like Jeremy Shockey, who I believe had 74 catches and roughly 900 yards during his rookie season in 2002. Oddly enough, Mike Ditka from 1961 still has like the record for most yards, over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns as a rookie tight end, which is a testament to Mike Ditka. But I think Kyle Pitts is going to have a very productive rookie season. He's going to be kind of asked to, because the loss of Julio Jones, someone's going to have to get those targets. And Matt Ryan always had a player, whether it was Julio Jones or going back to Tony Gonzalez or Roddy White, sort of that security blanket that could go get the football, win in traffic, all those various things. That's not really Calvin Ridley's game. Calvin Ridley is more of that sort of Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams type of wide receiver that wins with route running and separation, similar to what Eagles fans hope Devontae Smith is going to develop into, but he's not a guy that's going to go and get the football on those 50-50 balls. Kyle Pitts is probably going to be that sort of go-to guy, but, obviously him and Matt Ryan are going to have to build that rapport. And so, my expectation is that you will see that sort of develop as the year progresses. I think he'll be a dynamic option. And as the listener mentioned, Matt Ryan's had, when he's had his best seasons, he's always had sort of a reliable tight end over the middle that can be that chain mover, whether it was Gonzalez or Austin Hooper. But, I think Kyle Pitts can be that plus more, as I mentioned earlier, and be that sort of dynamic mismatch guy over the middle of the field that becomes a real focal point of the Falcons offense.
Okay, that's really what I'm worried about again. We just have a couple more questions. We appreciate you giving us your time here today. Again, for anybody that's listening or watching the show, you can check out Aaron on the Locked On Falcons podcast. Is that correct, right, Aaron? That's the Locked On Falcons podcast. You can hear Aaron on there. Download it on your podcast app, anywhere you get your podcast. And we got a couple more questions here. Austin has another question for you. Go ahead.
So I was just wondering, what's the general consensus of the running back core of Mike Davis, Cordero Patterson, and Wayne Gallman?
Yeah, I think Mike Davis had a really solid year last year, sort of stepping in for an injured Christian McCaffrey. Got off to a really fast start with that Carolina Panther team and looked really good in the first half of that season. I think things kind of slowed down for him over the second half of the season. So I do think there are some concerns whether Mike Davis can be your sort of lead tailback for a full 16-game season and give you reliable production. But he's an Atlanta native. He's certainly going to be motivated in front of his home crowd to produce this upcoming season and certainly this Sunday and get off to the best start. And so I think there's a lot of confidence that, Mike Davis, as part of the lead part of a committee system, can be an effective running back. But, we know with Arthur Smith from his days in Tennessee, he had a workhorse in Derrick Henry. And obviously, Derrick Henry is a very unique, people call Kyle Pitts a unicorn at the tight end position. Derrick Henry is probably the closest equivalent to a unicorn at the running back position. Yeah. So, there's no expectations that you're going to get that type of production from Mike Davis or really anybody in this league. So the Falcons' plan seems to be that they're going to try to use, 2-3 different running backs that can sort of, basically, fill that void as, their step in for Derrick Henry in terms of the running game. So I think Mike Davis gives you a decent option as far as the lead guy goes, gives you that sort of physical runner that can run between the tackles, as well as, give you a little bit of value in the passing game. They picked up Wayne Gallman this past week from the New York Giants. Obviously, Eagles fans are familiar from him. Yes. Had a very productive second half of 2020, filling in for Saquon Barkley. And so, I don't think Gallman, the expectations don't sound like Gallman's going to have a huge part on this Sunday, but as the season progresses, as he gets more comfortable in the system and in this offense, you should see him sort of emerge as their go-to option as the number 2 running back. And then you have Cordero Patterson, who's started out his career as a wide receiver. Obviously is a prolific kick returner, one of the best ever to do that. But over the last couple of years, since his days in New England back in 2018, has been utilized more and more as a running back, and due to the fact that he does a great job with the ball in his hands on kickoff returns, and so that also applies on offense. But Patterson has never really been a sort of
go-to option for teams throughout his career when he has been at the running back position. So I think that was a big reason why the Falcons were looking at a player like Gallman, who has a little bit more experience, sort of being part of a rotation, whether that was in New York and now here in Atlanta. So I think the Falcons feel better about the running back position, but I think there's still some work to do. You went into this last draft, or at least I did, fully expecting the Falcons to draft a running back in the mid rounds, and did not choose to do that. And so I think that's going to still be a concern for them this upcoming season, unless a player like Gallman or Davis really do outperform expectations. And so I think that's probably going to be, potentially a need going into next season. But obviously, we're a long ways away from that to see how those guys perform.
Okay, this last one for John. Go ahead.
Hey, Aaron. Another question I had for you. I know over the past couple years, Julio Jones has had the injury bug for you guys, but do you see losing Julio Jones as a big loss for your offense? How do you feel not having him on the team anymore?
Yeah, I mean, Julio provided a lot of stability for this Falcons offense over the years, especially when he was healthy, obviously. It's the playmaking ability that Julio Jones has had. He's been, I think when you look at 20-plus yard plays, if he wasn't number one in the league over the last 3 or 4 years, he was number two. And the only reason he was number two was because of those injuries that you're talking about and missing some games. That's a big loss. You're hoping players like Ridley and Kyle Pitts can sort of fill that void, but you knew Julio Jones could be that big-time playmaker that could, on any given play, could give you a 25, 40-yard bomb, 60-yard touchdown, or whatever the case may be. The other factor that Julio Jones brought to the table is you kind of knew going into each and every Sunday that teams were going to kind of defend you in basically one of two ways. You knew you were going to get bracket coverage with Julio Jones out there on the field, because defensive coordinators know, like, if the Falcons going to beat you, you can't let that guy beat you. And so he would often draw the double teams. He would draw the safety help. He would draw the bracket coverage. And so basically teams would either decide, okay, we're going to put our number one corner on him with safety help and hope that neutralizes him, or we're going to put our weaker corner on him and with safety help and put our number one guy on, say, a Calvin Ridley. And depending on the team, determine sort of what that game plan was. But you knew if you were the Falcons, okay, this is what they're going to do, one of these two things, and then we can sort of derive our own game plan to attack and exploit that if we're capable of doing so. And you don't necessarily have that. And so I think it's going to be interesting to me to see not only this weekend against Philadelphia, but obviously with other teams, afterwards, how teams decide to play this Falcons offense. Do they give Calvin Ridley the same sort of rules with bracket coverage and double teams and whatnot? Do they, a team like Philadelphia with a player like Darius Slay, is he going to shadow Calvin Ridley all day long? Or do teams look at this Kyle Pitts guy and say, look, this guy is going to be the new Julio Jones. We need to be aware of this guy and give that safety help to him. And then that leaves Calvin Ridley with a lot more one-on-ones on the outside. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how defenses adjust to the Falcons offense without Julio Jones. And obviously it's going to be important for the Falcons to make those adjustments. They're going to have to find ways to generate those explosive plays, or else they're going to have to rely on being more of that dink and dunk offense, which, is valuable, is not, something that doesn't work in the NFL, but we know that to be the highest performing offenses in the league, you have to generate explosive plays. It's harder to put those, 10, 12, 15 play scoring drives together, dinking and dunking your way. If you have a running back like Derrick Henry, it becomes easier. The Falcons, as I mentioned earlier, don't really have that type of runner. So they're going to have to find ways to generate those chunk yardage plays without Julio Jones. And that's going to be, I won't say a tall order, given that they do still have playmakers like Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts, but it's certainly going to be a taller order than it was.
Okay, Aaron, a couple of quick last questions. So for the game with two rookie head coaches coming up against each other and two teams that relatively haven't had much preseason action, what's your prediction for the game? Like, who do you expect to win?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the homer pick. It's week one. You kind of are incentivized to pick your team week one. You feel as confident as you possibly can going into these games. So, yeah, I'm going to have the Falcons win at home. I think it's going to be a close game. as these Philadelphia Eagle-Falcon games always seem to be going down to the final possession, whether it's the goal line stand by the Eagles or Julio Jones taking a screen to the house or something like that. Maybe it's Kyle Pitts this year. But, I think it's going to be like a 24-20 type of ball game with the Falcons in favor.
Sounds fair enough. Last one, Aaron. The question I have is: so if you're in Atlanta, here we have the cheesesteaks and tasty cakes, and Philadelphia is famous for a Falcons game. What do you typically go with? What are you going to go with game one as your game day food of the game for the game?
Yeah, lemon pepper chicken wings tend to be the go-to down here in Atlanta. So yeah, it's tried and true. That's what I'm going with.
Sounds good, buddy. Now, are you a blue cheese or a ranch guy?
Honestly, I'm one of those people that it does not discriminate. I go with ranch, but if you give me blue cheese, I can make it work.
I'm the same way. Aaron, I appreciate you hopping on, giving us some of your time. You can again catch Aaron Freeman on the Locked On Falcons podcast, and we could both say at the end of this one, "Go Birds!" Take care, Aaron.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
You
you.
got it. Bye bye.
Man, what a conversation.
Yes, that was pretty enjoyable. I got to learn a lot more about the Falcons though that I really.
I can say this much for sure though. He definitely said everything that I was saying to my buddies in my one fantasy league about Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. So
Guys,
and we
even
That's
Chris said it.
who-
Kyle Pitts is the best tight end in the past 15
And
years.
That's who
we
I
have-
wanted in the draft.
right, and we have Will Franklin here, who's a resident.
Yep. Our
Falcons
resident
fan. And
Falcons
as a matter of
guy.
fact, I think he was a little beside himself that I didn't have him on as my Falcons guest. But he could. I think he may be hopping on the airwaves tomorrow, so he can give his breakdown then. As far as us guys here, the Falcons and Eagles. All right, so you have two teams where they've played 16 times, and the Eagles are 11-5 against Atlanta. I think that I've heard on the radio throughout the week that people are predicting a blowout for the Eagles or a double-digit touchdown. I think it's going to be really close. I think that line is probably pretty accurate, and I think if you were to bet the Eagles, not that I'm a betting guy, but if I was going to bet, I would take the Eagles. Plus I think it's 3.5 now. So I would take the Eagles
something
and
like
the
that.
3.5. So I would take the Eagles. I think it's going to be a really close game. Man, I'll save my prediction for the end of the segment, but man, it's gonna be. You got two explosive offenses. I think it's going to be more of a shootout. Austin, what are you thinking?
I feel like it's gonna, like, just like Aaron said, it's gonna be a very close game. It's two teams with first year head coaches.
Right.
A lot of guys having to try and still really acclimate to the offensive schemes. Kyle Pitts will definitely see some touches for Atlanta for sure, because if it just doesn't make sense. Like Chris literally just said, we don't have a linebacker for the speed that Pitts has. He's going to be the biggest factor in this entire game. I honestly, I would have the Eagles probably winning by probably a field goal at the end of the game.
Right.
Like, I think it's going to be like again, like Aaron said, like somewhere in like a 24-21, a 27-24, or something like that.
That's what I'm thinking. Yes.
Like, I feel like a lot of our a majority of the points that we get are probably going to be through just battling to get close to the goal line, and then either just a dive up the middle or a nice little QB keeper for Jalen Hurts, probably get one or two rushing tutties on the day. But overall, it'll be a very fun game to watch, especially because of the fact, like, I'm a big tight ends and special teams guy. And with Cordero Patterson being there with Atlanta, it's going to check every box that I want to see for a game.
Yes. John, so what are your thoughts on going into the game? Are you nervous?
First, Austin took my score. I like the 24-21. I think this game, it's just going to be a lot of back and forth. I feel that the Eagles defense might need to put a little bit of a spy on Kyle Pitts, because they don't have the linebacker to stop him, so they're gonna have to figure out something how to contain him. If they can't contain him, it could be bad for us.
Yeah. It could be a long day.
But I think it, and it's going to be. I also see it being a sloppy game because these guys haven't really played in preseason, so I think there's going to be a little rust there. We really still don't know what we have in Hurts. Hopefully, his accuracy is okay. But like I said, it's just going to be. I think it's just going to be a back and forth game, and it's going to come down to the end and possibly the field goal. But I like the 24-21 Eagles win.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned again because you do have Wayne Gallman, and I heard Aaron where he said he didn't think he was going to be used a whole lot, but I'm not 100% sold on that because if I'm Arthur Smith and I've seen that the success that Wayne Gallman had against the Eagles in the previous 2 games last season again, for the Giants, I may be encouraged to use him a little bit and get him involved in the game in some way. You already have the receiving weapons, such as a Calvin Ridley, a Justin Gage, Hayden Hurst, Kyle Pitts. So this Falcons team is going to be formidable, and I think the key to the game for me is going to be if that Eagles defensive line versus that Falcons offensive line. You do have Jalen Mayfield going up against a Fletcher Cox, and it's key for Fletcher Cox to win that matchup and for that Eagles defensive line that we all put so much stock in, especially over the years in Eagles defensive history, that they come to play tomorrow. In order for the Eagles to win tomorrow's game, they're going to have to get to Matt Ryan and disrupt that passing game and allow the secondary to cover people. If you give Matt Ryan any kind of time, he's going to be able to pick you apart, and that's the thing I a little bit worry about is that Jonathan JG is not going to be able to throw anything at Matt Ryan that he hasn't seen. So it's going to be so important for them to win at the line of scrimmage tomorrow on both sides of the ball. I mean, Jalen a little bit. Dan Pease is the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. He's known as a blitzer. We could have got into so many more areas with Aaron, but we have so much time. But Dean Pease is known as a blitzer, and for Jalen Hurts, he's going to have to use his feet tomorrow. I think probably more than some Eagles fans would probably like. I heard Merrill Reese talking about he wants him to sit in the pocket, but when you got all those free rushers going to be coming possibly tomorrow, I think you'll see him have to make a lot of plays outside the pocket tomorrow. It should be a fun game. It should be a really, really, really fun game. Just one quick reminder, we are doing our anniversary show. All the shows you see here today on Devereaux Sports are anniversary. We'll get into how in a few moments we'll get into how we all came to Devereaux Sports and all, but back to the Eagles-Falcons conversation. So Austin, going into the game, what are you looking for? What are you looking to see? And then can you give us a score?
Well, going back to something that you said a couple minutes ago, I 100% agree with you. I was saying it all last year with pretty much every Eagles game. The games are going to be won and lost in the trenches in the battles between the defensive and offensive lines. And it, again, just right off the bat, week 1, battling in the trenches, how are we going to do?
Right.
That's always the main thing is like if your defensive line can start to break that pocket down, Matt Ryan isn't that effective of a runner. He's not a very mobile quarterback. He has great, field sense. He can really rifle the ball down the field, but if you put him on the move, he's gonna get into trouble. The thing I'm looking forward to the most with the game, definitely how Jalen Hurts can go through progressions and stuff when he drops back. Like you were saying, the Falcons defensive coordinator is a fairly heavy blitz favorite. Aside from using his legs, I feel like Jalen Hurts is going to have to use his eyes a lot.
Yes.
Just in the pre-snap reads, recognizing the Mike linebacker, recognizing where the blitzes are coming from, help that offensive line out with understanding protection about like if something needs to be adjusted like right before the snap. It's going to be it's literally like a weird, it's just I don't even know how to word it, but I feel like if he can at least get that down, the pre-snap progressions, everything else is going to come to him naturally. Because that was one of his main issues that he had last season, was that he couldn't make the reads
Right.
like just pre-snap. But once the snap went and the pressure came, he was able to avoid it. So I feel like with that playmaker ability that he already has with his mobility and stuff, he if he can at least recognize the blitz beforehand, so that way he knows that it's coming instead of snapping the ball and being like, "Oh God, it's here! I got to move."
Right.
He'll be in way better shape.
Right. So what are you predicting as that? What is your score? Who do you see winning this game?
I think the Eagles take it. Just like I was saying earlier, I totally agree with Aaron. I think it's gonna be like a 3 to 6 point differential. So at the least, I think it's gonna be like a 27-24, 24-21 type of finish.
27. So we got Austin on record. Taylor, mark that down. Austin is saying that we got the Eagles. We're going to try to keep track a little bit here of the games that we pick. We're going to pick a couple more for you.
Don't quote me.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll test our knowledge. We'll test all of our knowledge. Look, I'm not the greatest either. So, John, we're going to go to you. What are you looking for? What are your who do you are you expecting any standout performers, and what is your score?
What I'm basically looking for, I'm looking forward to see how this new coaching regime handles this game. Their time management, their play calling. I'm looking forward to seeing how we finally get to see Hurts. So and really Miles Sanders. I'm looking forward to seeing him play and to see if he can have a big season for us this year. But like I said, my prediction for the game, I like the 24-21 Eagles win, and I feel like our defense this year is going to be a lot more aggressive. There's going to be, I feel, more blitzing. Hopefully, we haven't seen in years. Remember all the turnovers we used to get and interceptions?
Right.
We haven't had that in a while.
Right.
And I think with this new style of defense, we're finally going to see the interceptions and the fumble recoveries come back our way. So I'm excited to see this whole new regime, and hopefully we got a good season this year.
Yeah, Gannon sees the sheer aggressiveness that the defense can have, and he really wants those guys to really maximize on that.
But I think that the expectation to see more blitzing, like on a game-to-game basis, like take for tomorrow, for instance, when you have
because Schwartz would never blitz.
Right, well, but the thing is,
he would, but in the wrong situation.
Yeah, but I want to see blitzing tomorrow too. I'm just curious to see how much we'll see, because when you have a quarterback like a Matt Ryan and you have the weapons as a Calvin Ridley, as we talked about, Jaden Hurst and Kyle Pitts and backs coming out of the backfield, when you have that, it's you'll probably see a little bit more of the Russian four. And if those four aren't getting home, I think at certain points in the game, you'll see them send a corner or a safety or a linebacker.
Well, just one other thing with this team is I think for the Eagles to have success this year is they gotta get ahead early. I don't think this team is like the built type of team where they can be down and pull out games in the end. I think this team needs to get a jump start and not take off the gas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Taylor, so you're going to be watching the game, I'm sure, tomorrow. So what are your expectations for the game tomorrow?
I'm kind of with you guys. I think it's going to be a close game, maybe like 30-27, but I think Eagles sneak one out. Yeah.
Yeah. So the over is 40. Over under is 48. So Taylor's saying he's going with the over. I as well think it's going to be a shootout. I think you're going to see that in the beginning of the season. I'm going to say that I'm looking forward to seeing how, as Austin had mentioned, Jalen Hurts, how he's going to play, how he's going to be able to see the field, if he's going to be able to read things properly, get the ball out, if he gets the ball out quickly. Remember, Carson Wentz had struggled, as Chris who's watching the show would know, is getting the ball to the running back. Simple throws in the flat to a running back. Carson Wentz struggled with that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Jalen Hurts. And I'm going to go with the Eagles 28-24. and again in a shootout kind of game. We have a comment from Joe Sullivan saying the Eagles are better up front. Eagles win. Again, I'm hoping that holds true tomorrow. Really, it's going to be super duper key for the Eagles to get the W tomorrow. I think that it's super important that they generate a really good pass rush.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Aaron was talking about was the matchup between our defensive line and their offensive line. There's a couple of spots that he really was unsure about with how they're going to perform against guys like a Fletcher Cox and all those kinds of guys on the interior of our defensive line.
Okay. Now, as far as the rest of the NFL goes, we'll leave that there for the Birds. We're all down as Eagles wins. I think Taylor, Austin, John, and myself, we're all saying the Eagles are going to win tomorrow. So that's put us down for the Eagles getting the win tomorrow. And we're going to jump around the NFL. You have a plethora of games. We're going to get to John's mush picks. Let's see, guys. We have our former quarterback. Carson Wentz going to be playing, I believe he's at home, taking on the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
How do you think Carson fares tomorrow, Austin?
I don't know, because that's another team that really likes to, stack the box from time to time, especially a lot more often than most teams in the league. So I would, the Carson Wentz fan in me wants to see him do well, but the Eagles fan in me wants to see him just get absolutely mauled by that Seahawks defense.
It sounds like Chris. Chris, do you hear this?
But I mean, you also have to think, he's not going to have T.Y. Hilton. He's missing a few weapons. I mean, their run game is still there. The run game is always a solid thing. Sorry, I thought that was me. I was about to be like, I'm a jerk. I left my ringer on. But I mean, you can never really. I was a person that was like, I wasn't a big fan of Russ for a while with Seattle, but
right.
The past 3 years, I've become a huge fan of him. I grabbed him in fantasy last year. In the first half of the season, he lit it up. I would not be surprised if he gets at least 3 touchdowns on that Colts defense. And I have them in both of my fantasy leagues, the Colts defense.
I myself am predicting a Seahawks win. Carson has never played well against Seattle.
Yeah,
and even on a new
bad.
team, I don't know. I'm just predicting a Seattle Seahawks win. I think Seattle's going to take that game. John, what say you?
Well, I'm a Carson Wentz guy, so I want to see him succeed. I just hope he has a decent game tomorrow. Seattle, they still, even though they lost a lot of guys on but they still have an aggressive defense. They're not going to make it easy for Wentz. But I want to see Wentz have a good game.
Okay. So you think you're saying Seattle's going to win?
What's that? Am I saying Seattle's going to win?
Yeah.
No, I'm actually going to go with the Colts. Yeah.
All right, so Colts for him, Seahawks for me, Colts for you?
Seahawks.
So 2 Seahawks. Taylor will mark that down. Taylor, what do you expect to see from our old quarterback?
I think the Colts are actually going to be pretty good. I actually think Seattle regresses this year, so I'll take a Colts win.
All right. So 2 Colts. 2 versus 2. All right.
Got a split room
All right,
on that.
guys. We are running out of time here. We got another show with the Breakfast and Body Slams.
You got a twofer with your boy today.
Sometimes I think to myself, I'd like to have a match in here with Chio. I'm kidding. It's the Scrapple Boys and the Breakfast Body Slams. We're gonna have a battle royal in here.
Look, dude, I would be playing both sides of that fence. That's not fun for me.
No. But Austin did a great job on the Thursday night slam. If you ever,
thank you.
If you haven't had a chance, check out that Thursday night Breakfast and Body Slam show. We joke around and I bust on all the shows, but you can check out all your favorite diverse sports shows. Today we got Breakfast Body Slams coming on. After us, we had Joe Sullivan's The Old School. The Sullivan Squad is the Old School show this morning, and then tomorrow you got the Gobbler Inc., the Misfits,
The Combat Misfits, the Sullivan Squad.
And the Sullivan Squad tomorrow. So, we have an action-packed weekend. And now, without further
Let's get
ado,
in on the real action.
We are going to get to John's mush picks. So, the reason John will explain to you, in case you didn't hear last week, why he's called the Mush Pick. Go ahead, John. The floor is yours.
Each week I am giving my mush picks because everybody, as they know me, I am known as the mush, and whatever I say, the opposite always happens. So that's my story real quick. Okay. Last week I started the season. I am actually 1-0. I said Tampa Bay would win, and they did win. So I am 1-0.
Right.
And he even wrote it down on the paper too.
I know. I have 3 games for you guys this week.
But did Tampa cover?
No, they didn't. They didn't cover, but I said Tampa would win.
Yes,
I said Tampa would win.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
they didn't cover. This week with my 3 games that I'm going to give you, I'm not going with the lines. I'm just going to tell you who's going to win the game.
Just taking the outright.
The
outrights, everybody.
The outright. All right, so we're the first game
Fire
that
up
we're
them
going to
sports books.
the first game I'm going with is the Lions and the Niners, and I am confident that the Lions are going to start out 1-0 this season.
I'm leaving.
Wow.
I am confident.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Wait.
He's got the
Lions.
Who are the Lions playing?
The Lions and the 49ers. The Lions will win this game this
Wow.
week.
Oh, man.
Okay.
All right.
So you're confident in Jared Goff. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The Lions will win this game.
I'm going to go with 49ers. I'm going to go with 49ers.
My second game, the Titans and the Cardinals. Titans will win this game.
Oh, yeah.
The Titans
Oh,
will
yeah.
win. Okay.
Yep.
Cardinals are too soft on the
Yeah.
run. Derrick Henry's a beast.
And then
I took him over Christian McCaffrey with my number 1 overall pick in my other fantasy league.
And then for my third and final game, the Packers are at the Saints, and Aaron Rodgers will win tomorrow the first game, and the Packers will be 1-0.
And
Wow. Okay.
touching on the Packers really quick, just like last year we saw with Aaron Rodgers, how he was pissed all
Yep.
year.
Yep.
He is even more
Yes.
pissed
So-
this year, dude.
So give a quick real rundown. So John went with
The
Lions
Lions, the Titans,
and the Packers.
and the Packers. All right, guys. There you have John's
The
mush
Lions.
pick. That's his segment. the
Those
mush
are
pick.
my mush picks, and whatever I say is a lock.
Lock it in.
Or not.
Lock it in.
Especially the Lions.
Or not.
Joe Sullivan, load up on
All
the
right,
Lions.
guys. We have less than 10 minutes left. We have less than 10 minutes left on the show. So I want to touch base with all of you guys. We have been doing this show. Pat's gonna kill me. I believe it's 2 years now, but we're on our 2-year anniversary for Dever Sports, and Pat and I had started Dever Sports, and Gus and David. I believe we were all. When I remember, we were at a Buffalo Wild Wings up in the Northeast, pre-pandemic and all that, and we had sat down, and my brother said, "Look, we're going to do like a Facebook Live kind of show." So we were all on Facebook. It was kind of relatively new to me, and we gave our little sports takes, and it was pretty neat. And then it blew up into what it is today. We had been at Crack Bell Studios, and now we're here at Last Out Media Studios, and it's been a pleasure working with John Barcher, John Creighton, and
Taylor
and Vinny Quinn and the gang, and we look forward to many more awesome shows. I know that we built this show to where you have me hosting, you have the Sultans Squad, you have the Scrapple Boys. John actually came up with the name, the Scrapple Boys. So that's some behind the scenes.
From what, like four dudes to 18?
Yeah,
like that?
So we went from 4 guys to 18. So we're running. We're trying to continue to click on all cylinders. We all pretty much get along behind the scenes, and of course, like anybody, we have our ups and downs. But it's been enjoyable doing the show, and I appreciate having you guys on and your input and your intake, your takes on the show, John. But I want to throw it to you. How did you come for the people that out there that maybe listen, maybe new, that don't know? How did you get?
Actually, I believe it was through you.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was through you, and then I remember. God, has it been 2 years? It's been
2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember talking to you, and you got me on once in a while, and I was able to stay on consistently. And then I remember then we got Sullivan on,
yeah.
and that's how the John show exploded.
Yeah. So what's the experience been like for you? Has it has it changed for you sports wise? Because now you're like on the media side of it versus the fans.
Oh, I love doing it. I love doing this. You know, you every day, because you know it was a long time like WIP listener and sports. It's anybody's dream job to be able to sit all day and talk about sports.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't think of a better job
Yes.
than to just sit and talk about sports
Yes.
all day.
Austin?
Well, it was actually through your brother Pat.
Okay.
Just one of those things. I was sitting around. I was in the middle of my work day. I want to say it was like early June last year, and I hit him up. I was like, "Hey man, how you been?" So I was just like, let me touch base with Pat. I haven't talked to him in a hot minute. We get to busting it up a little bit, and he goes, "Oh, dude, I do a sports podcast. Would you want to come in sometime?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So June 20th of 2020 was my first show. It was the Father's Day one. It was you, me, Pat, and your dad just talking about fun Father's Day moments that we got to do with our parents with sports and stuff. And from there, you know, it's just been an amazing ride. I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. You know, being the kind of guy that I am, that I could literally just sit here. If it was just me in this studio and they were like, "Yo, you got 4 hours, go,"
And let me say
I would go.
And let me say something for Austin. Austin is, you know, compared to myself, is very good on the statistics, the more inside, deeper stuff for the sports I've noticed. So I know that if I can't find something, that I can go to him and he'll
our stat guy.
and he'll be he's like a stat.
I'm also
guy.
the soccer guy.
Yeah, but he's a soccer, and he loves the Union. Sorry that we don't have time for that on the show today. But
That's what you're getting today because we're not playing this weekend.
So Taylor, real quickly, you have a history with the Gobbler. Can you tell us about that?
With Pat?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been, almost 3 years now. I've been working with Pat when he used to be with Passing Out Fanatics.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they were a rowdy crew. They were always a fun show. But yeah, Pat's been a pleasure to work with, and it's been nice getting to know everybody.
And he's known as he was the 97.5 caller.
Pat from Ambler.
Pat from Ambler. And now he's the Gobbler, and this is basically his creation, and that's where we are today. So it's pretty awesome. We got a couple minutes here, so. I just want to touch base on all the shows. We mentioned that you got the Breakfast and Body Slams crew coming up. You got the Combat Misfits coming up. You have the Gobbler Inc. and Joe Sullivan. The Sullivan Squad also does his own. They do a show on Sundays, and they have the Old School show. So it's those are all pretty good shows. Everybody puts a lot of work into it and a lot of thought into it. Give those guys a like and a listen, as well as this show. If you like us, give us a like and a listen. Share it out with your friends and your family, and we continue to bring you more shows. So real quickly, I want to touch on the Phillies before we roll out of here. The Phillies basically I'm going to say just a couple words. The Phillies stink. Okay, the Phillies stink. I am
Open that
out.
book and shut it really fast.
I told you last week I didn't buy in, and I'm not buying in this week because the Phillies are they are absolutely a joke. Okay, Pat had spoke to me right before we came on the air, and he was talking about the bullpen and how you have a bullpen game. The reason why the Phillies continually have bullpen games and they throw slop out there is partly because they don't have a farm system. They don't have somebody they can call up and just say, you know what, let's put him out there and hope he wins a game. So, bottom line, I'm out on the Phillies. John?
I'm now out on the Phillies. I was buying in last week, and back to reality. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm done. And
Yeah,
Bryce Harper's mad. It's like I get it.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I
it's-
feel bad for Harper because
Yes.
that dude gives 100% every day, and he's got to deal with this slop of a pitching staff, and you know it's ridiculous. You know, people are spending their hard-earned money to go see this team, and they let you down every time.
I made the mistake of letting them try and rope me in that week before the All-Star break, and then the second they came out of it, and they just left a coiled pile on my hopes and dreams for this year.
Well, this was supposed to be the 07 year where we get to the playoffs, get a little taste of it, and then hopefully next year advance. And now I feel
well, I mean, the taste that we're getting is we're probably going to do maybe finish with a record of at least 2 or 3 games over 500.
Yeah.
which isn't really saying much.
We need pitch. In this offseason, get some goddamn pitching.
We've been saying that for 5 years. It's almost like trying to say if we can get Ben Simmons to shoot a jump shot, we'll be cool. Like it's been the same thing for 5 years. So like it's either we're just being, hopelessly optimistic, or we're just being dumb.
We're gonna waste Bryce Harper here. We're gonna waste him here.
We're gonna waste Rio Muto, and he's one of the best catchers in the league.
Harper's gonna want to leave soon.
Well, guys, we're gonna have to leave the Phillies talk there real quickly before we get out of here. What's your game day meal before we go? What are you looking forward to eating tomorrow for the game?
I gotta go. I'm gonna be at PJ's. I gotta go to the wings at PJ's, buddy.
Wings at PJ's for John Taylor.
Hot wings with blue cheese every time.
Hot wings with blue cheese. All right, so 2 wing guys.
First week of football, you gotta go wings, dude. You gotta go hard on them wings.
Yes.
You gotta get the sauce all over your face and the blue cheese.
I believe
just make yourself look like a small child that just had some ice cream.
We're gonna wrap it up here. I believe wings and football are the best combination there is as far as food and football. I mean,
Food and sports.
Sports goes. All right, guys. I wish we had more time to sit here and talk for you, but we're gonna have to leave it there. Check us out again next Saturday at 9. Upcoming next is the Breakfast and Body Slams crew. Give us a like and a listen. Also, be sure to tune in and share out all your favorite Denver sports shows. Thank you, everybody.
Go Birds!
Go Eagles!
Bird! E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!